Welcome to Planning with Purpose.
Welcome back to Planning with Purpose with Attorney Deb Bess Morneau of Courteous Law, PC, Henniker, New Hampshire. Deb helps families create thoughtful plans that address not only what happens after death, but also what happens if someone becomes unable to make decisions during their lifetime. I'm Evan Mack, and today we're talking about powers of attorney and healthcare directives and why these documents matter for adults of all ages. Ms. Deb, welcome back.
Hi, it's nice to be here, Evan. Thank you.
Good to see you. So, Deb, what is a power of attorney for people that might not know, and what does it allow someone to do?
Great. So a power of attorney for finances is an incredibly powerful document. Depending on what you put in it, it means that you can do literally any financial transaction for the person that you're the power of attorney for. So you can file taxes, you can sell a house, you can sell a car, you can do banking, you can pay bills, and literally anything that someone can do financially for themselves, your power of attorney can do. So it's super powerful. And they are effective two different ways. Some powers of attorney you can say are effective the minute you sign them, and others can be effective at the point where you become incompetent, unable to take care of finances for yourself.
So how is a financial power of attorney different from a healthcare directive?
A very good question. So POAs for finances are really just that financial piece of your life, and the healthcare or advanced directive is all about what happens if you can't make medical decisions for yourself. So if you are, I tell clients all the time, if you're having surgery and they go in to take out your appendix, but they're like, uh-oh, we see something, they can go out, talk to your person and find out if they could do more, while they're in surgery for you. Or it can relate to that really hard stuff, that end of life decision making about prolonging your life or withdrawing life support. So that's the advanced directive.
How do these documents actually work if someone becomes unable to make those decisions?
Sure. So if you're talking about an advanced directive and you are the person that made the advanced directive and you are no longer able to make decisions, a doctor has to determine that you can't make decisions. If you're unconscious, that's pretty clear that you're not able anymore. But there is a gray area where folks are, a lot of times, these things aren't usually typically a very, 1 minute you're competent and the next minute you're not. Usually folks have a period of decline. And so you're working with a primary care doctor or someone in a facility to say, yeah, we've reached that point where they can't make decisions anymore. And then you're making all kinds of decisions for somebody like, how much care are they going to get? Are we just focused on palliative care, keeping someone comfortable, making sure that they have some real end of life dignity? And that's important. So that decision about when things happen and how it happens it's gradual, and it kind of morphs over time.
Who should someone consider naming to make these decisions on their behalf?
That's a good question. So, if you're married, it's typically your spouse is going to make those decisions. Except if you're married for a second time or more and you have children from prior relationships who are adults, you may wind up with folks who are not all seeing eye to eye on your care. So it's important to talk with your family, talk with your spouse, with your kids about what it is that you want. Make sure everyone understands that you've made your wishes clear. And so whoever you choose, whether it's a wife or children, if you don't have those folks, maybe it's a sibling or a good friend, somebody who knows you and understands your philosophy of life and what you want the end of your life to look like. And so it's important because you can have folks, some folks, especially, with your kids, they don't want to terminate life support. That's too hard of a decision for them. They don't want to do that. And so then it's important to pick somebody who will follow your wishes and make sure that folks are on the same page. Sometimes you can't make sure people are on the same page, but make sure that you've named who you want and that you let your doctors know who you want. And by giving them a copy of that advanced directive, then your wishes are what they are and folks need to follow them. And, sometimes there's disagreement, but, usually I think with more communication, people do follow your wishes.
So what kind of decisions can a power of attorney cover that people maybe not expect?
Sure. So if you're talking about a financial power, it really can cover the whole gamut of things, and that can include Making gifts, financial gifts. It can include selling things. It can include investing money for someone. So if some money comes into an estate, I've had someone who was in a bad car accident, and so he wasn't really able to do his own finances, but there was a sizable settlement that came for him. So his power of attorney was somebody who was able to invest wisely for him and have his money grow and to be able to take care of his kiddo. Unfortunately, his child was still a minor when he had this horrible accident. And so those funds were able to cover her expenses. So the power of attorney was able to, take care of things like essentially child support for someone. You can litigate for someone. So this power of attorney, did litigate, started a suit on behalf of, it was his brother, who had been in an accident. So there are lots of things you can do for someone. It's really, really helpful.
What can happen if someone becomes incapacitated without these documents in proper put in place?
So my husband and I are living this situation right now.
Wow.
My husband's dad has had a decline, and before
Wow.
Chris and I got married, his dad declined and didn't have his documents in place. And so now
Wow.
my husband has guardianship over his father. And so that's the only solution. If you need to make financial or personal decisions for a loved one and they don't have these documents in order, the only solution is guardianship. And let me tell you, that process has not been fun. You have to take your loved one to court. They get appointed in New Hampshire. They get their own attorney. And so we're bringing his dad to court, and so this poor sweet man,
Wow.
he doesn't know why we're there, and it's very agitating for him. So, the loved one that you're going to get guardianship over, this is not what you want for somebody that you love. And I can tell you just from personal experience, this is not what you want to have happen. So if you can get these documents done, the more power to you. It's better to do that. Because it's not what you want to do, especially in a time where you're stressed and you're trying to manage affairs for someone else. You're trying to manage medical care. And for those people who are doing caretaking, that is such, it really can create a lot of stress. And so those folks really also need to make sure that they're taking care of themselves, because that can be pretty hard on people.
Do these documents need to be updated over time, and what changes usually trigger a review, if so?
Sure. So I tell all of my folks, every 5 years, let's look at your stuff. Let's look at the power of attorney and make sure the people that you named are still the folks who are good to go with that role. Adult children move. They move out of town. They move away or they get married. In New Hampshire, we have seen a real epidemic of opioid addiction. And so I have had
Mm.
families really struggling with an adult child who has become addicted. That's a change that absolutely you should change your documents. You can't have someone who has other interests having power over your finances. So if a spouse passes away, then you're going to need to change your documents. You need to look at who's going to make your choices for you and do your checkbook if you can't. So it's really important to look at your documents, take stock of who's living where, who's more involved in your life. You may wind up, if you were a solo person and maybe you get in a relationship and get married again, and maybe that person is closest to you now. So any life change, I think, warrants a change for your documents, or at least a good review of them.
So for someone who hasn't put these documents in place yet, what's a simple way to get started, Ms. Deb?
Sure. So folks can call me or another attorney and say, I need my powers of attorney done. I would say, I usually do everything all together. So folks come in, do their will or trust, and then they also do their powers of attorney for finances and for healthcare. And you just come in. We talk about who's good. We talk about pluses, minuses, drawbacks, what the documents are, how powerful they are. And then we get them drafted and you come in and sign, and it's just like a will in New Hampshire. 2 witnesses, and a notary or JP. And so you got to have all those things to make these documents effective.
Good stuff, Ms. Deb. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's it for today's episode of Planning with Purpose. If you live in New Hampshire and want to help putting powers of attorney or healthcare directives in place, you can connect with Attorney Deb Morneau at courteouslaw.com. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like, leave a review, and subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next episode, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.